Alita Battle Angel is directed by Robert Rodriguez, but is also produced by James Cameron, and is based off of the manga of the same name, which is basically about this cyborg girl called Alita, who is a badass hunter warrior girl who hunts down other cyborgs. And that's pretty much all you really need to know. I mean, that's all I knew going into the movie, because I had never read the manga in my life, but I vaguely knew what it was, and that's kind of all you need to know going in. Now, I want to start off by saying that this movie is a bit of a weird one in the sense that it kind of feels like it's been around for ages. Like, I swear it got announced years and years and years ago, and we kept seeing trailers for it for the last couple of years, and it hasn't really surfaced properly until now. And I think the main reason that is because James Cameron wrote the script about 20 or so years ago, and because he's been taken up with Avatar-related stuff for the past decade, he hasn't really had the time to come back to doing Alita Battle Angel, but it's something he's always wanted to do just at some point in his life. So I think somewhere along the line he met up with Robert Rodriguez and they both agreed to team up, and he kind of left Robert Rodriguez to do his own thing on this film while still kind of having the reins on certain creative things, and in the end we got this movie, which is okay. I mean, I was expecting it to be a bit better. It's definitely one of the better anime manga adaptations to a Western, Hollywoodized movie that we've had. Because the only other movies you really have to compare this to are Dragon Ball Evolution and 2017's Ghost in the Shell. I haven't seen the 2017 Ghost in the Shell film, but it's mixed opinions about it, that's for sure. And I know Dragon Ball Evolution is shit. I haven't even seen it, but I know it's shit. The first thing I have to mention is the CGI, because the CGI in this film, for the most part, is pretty damn incredible. There's a couple of moments where it does show, in a sense, like there are a few moments where the CGI does dip in quality, but for the most part, and I would say for the majority of its runtime, it is very, very, very good and is pretty damn impressive to look at. And that just goes to show how much James Cameron and his company have really put into this film in terms of like the CGI, the detail, and really getting it right in terms of making it look and feel like that manga. I mean, like I said again, I haven't read it, but I know what it looks like. So I think in a visual sense, they've done an incredible job here. And in regards to Robert Rodriguez's direction, the pacing of this movie, though a little bit off towards the end, is pretty consistent, and he really has a good sense of scale and urgency in this film, especially during the action scenes, because even though it does slow down in a few places and gets a little bit boring in a sense in a couple of times, whenever there's an action scene on screen, you know you're getting your money's worth because it's incredibly well handled. That being said, there is a nitpick I do have with some of the action scenes, but I'll get onto that later. But yeah, in terms of visuals, they're really, really well executed. And going back to that previous point I made earlier about it being one of the better anime manga adaptations in a Hollywoodized film, anime influence is pretty much all over this movie. And I don't just mean in terms of the look of the movie, I mean in terms of how certain things are executed, like the way certain characters act, the way certain characters look, the way certain scenes are shot, the way certain things happen feels like you're watching an anime come to life. It might not be to everyone's taste, but if you like anime, I can see it appealing to you, those kind of people more. I thought most of the characters were pretty interesting and cool, especially some of their designs were pretty unique, and I liked the design of some of the cyborg characters. Like Ed Skerin's character, I thought was quite oddly creepy, but in like a really good way, in an effective way, that is. In terms of the performances, though, Christoph Waltz is really good. Rosa Salazar as well, who plays Alita, I thought she was really good as well. Some of her character decisions are a bit odd, but that being said, her performance is good enough to make those decisions her character makes just make a bit more sense. And yeah, for the performances for the most part are really good. I do feel as if Mahershala Ali and Jennifer Connelly were slightly underutilized. They're in the film a fair amount, but their roles are a bit one note. They're kind of the bad guys, and there's not much else to them. I mean, Jennifer Connelly's character has a bit of a a two-way dilemma with her character, but apart from that, they're just a bit bland. And you also have this guy, I think his name's Hugo or something like that, or Hector. He's basically the love interest for Alita, and I really didn't care much for his character. I mean, the actor's fine, don't get me wrong, but his character, again, is pretty one note. And I liked some of the stuff they did with him, but I really didn't care about him. I really genuinely didn't care about him, whether he died or whether he lived. Could not have given a shit whatsoever. And that kind of leads into my nitpicks here and negatives. The relationship aspect of the movie kind of grounds the movie to a halt in a sense. It's very cliched, it's all the tropes you're expecting to see, and every time it cut back to the relationship aspect, I really didn't care much for it. The ending of this movie is very, very sequel baity. To the point where if it had ended about 15, 20 minutes earlier, then you would have had a concise conclusion to everything, in a sense. But it keeps going and leads to an ending which kind of feels abrupt. And yeah, it's the most blatant setup for a sequel I think I've seen in quite a long time. It doesn't quite work. I mean, I was just sat there in the cinema just going like, yeah, and what else? But then the credits started rolling and I was like, okay, we're not getting any more. So I mean, that ending is just a bit odd in a sense. My other nitpick I have with the film, and the reason this is a bit, it kind of ruined my experience a little bit, but the thing is, I don't know whether to blame the sound design or the speaker system at the cinema I saw it in, but the sound during the action scenes can be a bit too much at times. For example, an action scene will be going on, and the volume will be at a very certain level that's just right. But then every so often, if a sword hits the ground, or if someone hits a wall, that one sound suddenly becomes 10 times louder than everything else. So you'll hear like crash, bang, bang, crash, and then you'll hear a dush that is just so fucking loud. And I don't know whether it's the sound design's problem or my cinema's problem, but it really was annoying, because just when you're getting into the flow of an action scene, you get these really abrupt, loud sound effects coming out of the speakers that just really, really took me out of the experience and also kind of hurt as well. In the end, I'm going to give Alita Battle Angel a 6.5 out of 10. If you go into it expecting a fun, popcorn, action-adventure movie, then I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. But for me, I kind of was hoping for a little bit more from it. I don't quite know what that bit more was, but I was a little bit disappointed in the end. I think when it's on top form, it is a ton of fun, especially during the action scenes, and the effects are great, but it's not enough to keep me fully invested from start to finish. So guys, that was my review of Alita Battle Angel. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Bye.